Hey guys, it's Leo Stargazer. Today is Thursday, August 10th, and I'm here with our daily tarot reading. Today's intention is focused intention. So, we're bringing back a sense of focus. Earlier in the week, it was definitely about internal focus. Then we kind of relaxed for a bit, and then we brought it back into kind of thinking about communicating our identity in particular. Today, we are bringing the focus to our intentions. So we were called yesterday a little bit to move onward with our journey. Well, I want us today to remind ourselves of what our initial intention on that journey was. I want the tarot spread to remind us of what that intention was at the start. And I want us to focus on that today. I think that'll help inform our journey forward. So let's do that. I start my shuffle and I'm taking deep breaths, meditating on the idea of focused intention. So I'm basically just reminding myself of what my intention was. If I forgot it, if that intention didn't work out, then let's think about focusing on a new intention today. But if you are holding on to an intention that you set earlier in the week, then let's think about that. And again, if not, then let's think about focusing on a new intention. Let's do that together while we take some deep breaths and I finish off the shuffle. Okay, so I've brought the deck from Chaos into Unity, and I'm ready to draw my first card. We'll be doing the thinking, feeling, doing spread as usual. And in the thinking position, the card that I draw is the Nine of Wands. The Nine of Wands in thinking is showing me a couple things. In terms of my intention, it may be showing that my intention has been a little exhausting. That maybe trying to have a bunch of self-discovery and go through all this review and all of this has been very challenging. I've been successful, I think I'm seeing, at least in my thoughts. I've been successful at dealing with thoughts. But it's been maybe a little tiring. It's been maybe a little draining. It's maybe left me a little bit jaded, but still successful. So let's see what the other cards say to inform that feeling. In the feeling position, the card that I draw is the Moon. Okay, so we have a major arcana card here, and it's the Moon in feeling, all about feeling. The Moon is feeling. The Moon is intuition. The Moon can also be the unknown. It can be mysterious. It can also be a little bit of imagination as well. And I think, for me, and I think in the feeling position, if you remember yesterday, we were talking about moving on with the journey, and a big part of the journey and our journey forward was going to involve imagination and fantasy. I think here having the Moon in the feeling position is speaking a little bit to how imagination can sometimes create illusion. So there is maybe potentially this idea that we want to make sure we're not just that we are having some form of reality placed on these things, but that's all part of the journey. You don't have to do anything for that. I think here, though, for us, the moon in feeling, especially seeing the Nine of Wands in thinking, I think the moon in feeling is showing us that our intuitive flow, our focus on fantasy, imagination, even on the unknown side of us, our journey almost into the unknown, is going to be playing a big part on how we feel today. So where we're thinking, our thoughts, our mind is maybe feeling exhausted. I think the moon is showing up here to remind us that those hidden sides of us, the sides of us that our intuition has been hinting to us are there, that part of our intuition that yesterday was telling us to keep moving forward, to be imaginative and focus on fantasy, it's saying that in feeling, we're going to be feeling our unconscious self speaking to us. We're going to be feeling our intuition. Maybe it's in that exhausted state. Maybe it's in that part of the journey where the thinking mind is kind of tired, that our emotional side is saying, remember your intention, but remember how your intuition is what led you forward. Your intuition is what told you that stasis wasn't the place you wanted to be. We were leading with our intuition, and the moon is saying, continue to do that. Continue to lead forward intuitively by tapping into what you feel, your unconscious self. And you might find illusions there. Something you might find almost like some kind of visions that you maybe don't love, or maybe you really love. You may be tapping into dreams right now as well. And I think the moon is saying that, especially if you had dreams, some vivid dreams recently, that's your unconscious talking to you. That's your intuition. Even if you want to take from this that today you kind of should just engage in some meditation to tap into your intuition, the moon card is here to guide you today, especially in our feelings. So I love to see that. I think our exhausted mind is making way for our emotional intuition. Let's see what doing is, though, to see what we might be doing today to aid us in engaging with our intuition. The card that I draw in the doing position is the Three of Wands reversed. So with the Three of Wands reversed, I don't think it's so much saying what we're going to be doing is helping with our intuition. After all, I think what the Three of Wands reversed is saying is that we may be isolating today in our exploration of the self. We may be isolating today because we're trying to uncover our unconscious truth. We may be isolating there. I think because it's wands and we have the Nine of Wands in thinking, there has to be a connection made there. And I think what that's saying is that with the three reversed, it's showing us that what's maybe exhausting us is this idea that we're getting lost in memories. Maybe in fact it's the isolation itself that's keeping us exhausted. Because we're not reaching out to others, because we maybe are isolating too much on this journey, that we may be lost in thoughts. We may be too lost also in the idea of forward planning. We may be lost in this idea that where are we going to go forward? That place where we end up is kind of a mystery right now. I think, again, the moon, though, is here to say that whatever we choose, whatever path we end up going on, that we have to rely on our intuition first and foremost. We need a balance of our reliable side and our wild side. We need that balance. If you really look at the moon card, it's really clear that division. But the path goes forward. Which side we choose, which direction we go, We can let our intuition lead us there, but getting overly concerned with or exhausted by or lost in the idea of which direction I'll go once I'm on the path, we aren't there yet. We know we want to take a path forward. Let's just move forward, but guided by our intuition. Before we do that, though, let's look to our Lenormand pair to give us a little bit more guidance. Okay, so with the Lenormand deck, I want to shuffle it as usual. I want to remind myself of my intention, of focusing on my intention. So basically, remind yourself of your intention again. Let's do that. Take some deep breaths and center while I shuffle the deck. Okay, so I've brought the deck from chaos into unity, and I'm ready to draw the first card in my pair. The card that I draw is the Fox. Okay, so the Fox here is clever, cunning, also self-interested, potentially self-centered, but definitely more centered on self-care. But I want to see the second card right away to get the full picture. The second card that I draw is the Garden. So I have the Fox and the Garden. The Garden usually represents some kind of social event, some kind of social space. It can also just represent the idea of community. So if you remember from the tarot, I was saying that there's some hints here of isolation and that may be exhausting us. But with the Garden showing up, I think it's showing us that some kind of social event or community event or just get together with the community or just the community on its own, your community, your chosen groups, that maybe there is a balance being called for between caring for yourself and caring for the community. That in order to continue with the journey, we need to be balancing our clever sense of self with our clever sense of our group. Meaning, our place in the group, our place in our chosen social circles is incredibly valuable. So this isolating journey we've been on, this intuitively focused momentum can only come from within, and that has to come from ourselves. We're doing all this with the intention of self-care, self-nurturing, self-growth. But what we can't lose sight of is the outside world. But in this case, we should start by focusing on our closest outside world, our garden. But not just our personal garden, our social garden. Our groups, the groups that accept our self-care, they don't view that as selfish. They support your self-care because they know that you doing that is taking you on a journey that not only brings you to them, but brings your best self to them. And if they're the group you need to be with, then they're accepting of that. So we need to think about balance today. We need to start this next phase of our journey with this idea that we need to take care of ourselves first and foremost, but that on this journey, we can get overwhelmed, lost, or even jaded and burdened and exhausted if we don't have some outreach, if we don't allow for a party. So think about that today. You don't have to have one today. If you want one, do it. If you're called to go to an event, go to it, especially if it's a group you feel safe with and who values your journey. Otherwise, just start thinking about that group. Maybe start thinking about creating that group. But definitely reach out if you can. Think about the next phase of the journey involved with taking a little bit of steps into our garden to get ready for a party where we are our best, most complete self. And intuition will guide us there. Just trust it. I'll see y'all tomorrow.